Navigators, welcome back to another episode of From Campus to Corporate. I'm your host, Jakobi Augillard, and today I am joined by Miss Tamara Peterson.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for being here.
And thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. For those of you at home that do not know, Ms. Tamara Peterson currently serves as an underwriting analyst for Liberty Mutual, as well as being a graduate from the university, a double graduate from the University of Houston downtown, first in her undergrad and then second as a graduate student.
Yes.
If you don't mind me asking, can you give me the concentration for both of those degrees?
Yes, so my concentration for my bachelor's is with concentration in that's my master's. Insurance and risk management, and my master's is a concentration in human resources.
Okay, wow. Was that always the intended path from, insurance risk management to HR? Or?
No, it was not my intended path to even get into insurance. I just felt like I had a passion for insurance to help people to secure their positions in life, and just the insurance is one way to secure your future. So,
okay.
Being a single mother at 17 years old, I felt like that it was my obligation, if something happened to me, for my mother to be able to take care of my son. So I got my first life insurance policy at the age of 18. So insurance is really nothing but a peace of mind, and I wanted to give my mother a peace of mind. I knew that it was already a struggle as a teenage mother, a single teenage mother, so I needed to eliminate or mitigate as many issues as I possibly could because of my inaction or my carelessness or irresponsibility. So that's how I got the mindset around securing the future and being able to offer a peace of mind. I started out in working at McDonald's. I was 15 years old. I worked at McDonald's September the 15th of 1986, my first day. So I've been working a long time. And I worked there for 10 years. And I think that working there really built a foundation for me to be responsible and to be able to maintain as a person. And I think also just the commitment over time really showed my son that she's dedicated, and this is what you're going to have to mimic, because life is not going to give you anything. You have to get out there and get it. So, and I also wanted him to be comfortable in life. The path that I chose for him was not traditional, but I knew that if I put my foot down and kind of got a solid foundation, that I would be able to minimize as many issues as possible as him growing up, and be able to kind of display some consistency in his life, and be able to help him say, okay, I got to get up and get it. My sound foundation is not the traditional, but this is a path that has been created for us, and we can make the best of it.
Wow, thank you. That's like very insightful. I feel as though you've given me kind of like a glimpse kind of into, what the experience was like for you starting off from like, having your son, to, the experience of you working and not to date you, but what is it? You said you started in 86.
Yes.
10 years later, that puts us around like 96, right? And then past that now. Excuse me, I do a little bit of LinkedIn snooping. So if I remember correctly, you started your undergraduate degree here at the University of Houston downtown in 2009, is
Yes.
that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So what were those motivating factors that brought you back to university?
Well, in 96, I had my second child at that time. So at that point, it was really time for me to be a parent. So I knew I had to give him a foundation also, and I needed, it couldn't be a wavering foundation, so I knew at some point I was going to have to go back to school. So I started out at Lone Star in 2007. Once I completed that, my associates there, then I decided, maybe I should go and work on my bachelor's. It wasn't too bad. So if you look at the picture in the grand scheme of I want to get my master's, it's overwhelming, right? So one way to eat an elephant is bit by bit. So once I got my associates, then I was like, okay, I got this. let me work on my bachelor's. Finally got that, and then I was like, okay, now it's time for me to get out, get a job in the industry that I've actually focused on, and find out exactly what I can do, because at that time I had student loans. I bought a house, and I had 2 children, so life was life, and you had to make it, and I had to make the best of it. So I worked a full-time job. I worked at Texas Children's in the medical center.
Oh.
I worked there for 5 years, and I was in hematology oncology, and I was over the admissions for the chemo drugs. So once I got my foot in there, and I was like, okay, so they can help me with going back to school and from the financial aspect, and I can get tuition reimbursement. So I was like, if I can sit here for 5 years and ride the Metro Rail to class 2 days a week, I can do this. So everything comes with, I'm a structured person, everything comes with planning and how committed and dedicated you are to it. So again, I'm a single parent. On Sundays, I had to do meal prep, what is called meal prep now, but at that time, I would say I have to cook for the week, or at least until Wednesday, because I know I'm going to get home at 10 o'clock at night, and I'm not going to see the kids until the next morning, and most of the time, I'm waking them up because I'm back on the road at 5:30 in the morning. So life was life. They were older, but I'm still responsible for them, right? Mm-hmm. So I had to prepare on Sundays for the entire week. So I went to the grocery store on Saturdays. We went to church on Sundays, and I came home and I spent my entire Sunday ironing clothes, doing household chores, being a mother. And I would do homework at night. So I had a lot of late nights. But I was dedicated and committed to completing what I started. And at that time, it was my bachelor's. Once I started working at Texas Children's, and then I started to kind of get my feet under me in my studies, I found that networking was the best thing for me at Texas Children's. Just being in school, I had to plan again because we were doing industry events where we would travel to the Capitol. At the time, the director of insurance and risk management was Wendell Braniff. So we were in the industry. We were out all the time. So that's what I used my personal time off for, was actually getting out in the industry, learning trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do, because there are so many different avenues you could take in insurance. You can work for the agency, you can work on the carrier side, and I chose to work on the carrier side. I liked the fact that I was able to, when I was doing healthcare, be able to work and communicate with the carriers. Prior to coming to Texas Children's, I worked for Triumph, and Triumph was formerly known as Triumph, but it's Kindred. And what really, really inspired me just from that time I was at Triumph was I worked with a CFO, and we had an account that was, I think it was like 3 years old. So it had been on the books for a while, and they could not get payment on it. And I studied that account until I was able to get the payment of about $300,000 on that account, even though it had been denied. And just from that, building that appeal and telling the story of how that claim slipped through the cracks, that's what made me determine I want to work for a carrier. I don't want to work for an agent. And it's all about telling a story, making somebody believe truly what happened. And about follow-up, I followed up probably every other day on that account, and I got that account paid. And the gentleman, his wife had passed away, so her husband had called. Actually, he wrote a letter. I still have it to this day. And he said, nobody's ever worked that hard for me. Nobody's ever worked that hard for me to satisfy something that's been bothering me for 3 years in the absence and the loss of my wife. And that in itself meant so much to me. And that really made me say, I can make a difference in somebody's life. Just at one time, I can secure somebody's future. Because he was in his 70s. It's long-term acute care. It's what Triumph or Kindred is about. So They were trying to keep her comfortable in her final days. But the last thing I wanted was for her husband to have to deal with that bill every day and the loss of her. And that was kind of like etched a soft spot in my heart. And I always said I'll be at a carrier because I feel like I can make a difference at a carrier. Even if it's oil and gas like I am currently in, or if it's healthcare, I feel like I can reach somebody and I can make somebody's journey just a little bit easier. And if I can I'm fulfilled when I can fulfill someone else, if I can help someone else. My focus is I care about people. I'm just a nurturer, and I try to help anybody that I can. But I also have to understand, and I'm finally learning this in my older age, I have to understand they have to give me something to work with, though. You have to have some type of dedication, have to have some type of drive, commitment and show me this is what it is you want to do. And I'll do whatever I can to help you get there. One thing that I always say, you have to have a board of directors, and your board of directors are going to be the ones that are there for you, that's going to help you get through any questions of when it comes to your career, sometimes even personal. Get your board of directors together for your career, and they can help you maneuver through life. And I've had a few good people on my side. I can say right now, being at Liberty Mutual, the people that have rallied around me to be an underwriter, I can't thank them enough. The lady that actually reached back to get me from my prior carrier, it's because I showed her something. I showed her dedication. I showed her commitment. I showed her that I was accountable and responsible, and that I wanted to succeed. And she reached out to me, and when she reached out to me, I did take a pay cut. Everything is not always about $1. It's about growth. I felt like I had plateaued where I was, and I could not move forward. So I did take a pay cut. But if you just take a pay cut and make a sacrifice for a small amount of time, I do believe that will propel you forward. And that has given me the opportunities that I have right now. And I'm happy that I made the move to Liberty Mutual. I always tell everybody all the time, I get choked up when I talk about that, because I felt like nobody ever saw that in me as a person. And they outwardly express that. The cultures and the values that Liberty Mutual possesses and they display on a daily basis, that definitely is a place for me. The people that I work with, I love them. I love them, and they're so open. No question is a dumb question, and you always have an opportunity to learn and to grow. And I take all of those opportunities to grow. And I always say preparation is not going to guarantee you success, but preparation would definitely guarantee you growth. And that's where I am in my life. I take every opportunity to grow and to do better.
I first want to kind of just touch on the fact, the embodiment of an unyielding spirit, and just the full humanness of that, your level of determination, and being able to kind of tackle these individual problems that, in terms of trying to achieve this one larger goal, right? The idea is growth. The idea is, this board of directors that will help you set yourself up on a path for success. I always tell students, you got to set yourself up on the right trajectory, right? In order for you to reach, your highest point possible, the zenith as it is. And it's just, I'm so happy that, you're sharing that with, the students today. The fact that, it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
No,
it's not always easy. And in fact, most of the time it's not easy. Yes. And also being realistic in the fact that sometimes in order to move forward, we have to take a step back, or so it seems, right? Because it is about making plans. And again, the biggest thing, and I tell people that I know this all the time, making a plan isn't a guarantee of success. Making a plan doesn't say that oh yeah, everything's going to go exactly to plan, but it does give you the ability to have a foundation,
sure,
a structure, something to look forward to, and work with on a daily basis. Knowing what your intentions are, it matters. It matters, each and every little bit of it. It matters. I feel as though with everything that you shared to this point, with with how many things you've kind of overcome as it is, everything that you were explaining to me to this point, to my understanding, was mostly focusing on like that time while you were with Texas Children's.
Yes.
Texas Children's. What is it? Working, being a full-time worker, full-time mom, and also like full-time student, right?
Yes.
But that was just, from what I understood, the undergrad portion.
Yes.
What were the struggles that you were facing during like that graduate section of your life? What other things did you have to deal with? Or was it a lot more of the same?
No, so life changes after
Right,
every 10 years or so. Life changes. I was in my 40s, not even thinking, I don't know how I'm going to get through this. It took me a minute to decide I wanted to actually work on my master's, and at that time I just bought another house. I had moved to a different part of town. I had just had surgery, and school started in January. I had surgery December of 2018. So I came back struggling. I was barely walking, but I was like, you signed up for this. This is what you said you wanted to do. You have to make it work. If it takes you to have to get to the parking lot 30 minutes earlier so you can walk across the street, then that's what you have to do. So I did that for probably 2 months before my body started to kind of ease up and give me a break, and it started to settle, and I was able to get comfortable. And I stood up in the classroom because I couldn't sit down. So I stood up in the classroom against the wall like the first month, and I told the professor why I was standing up. I didn't want him to think I was being rude. I told him I had just had surgery and it was just hard for me to sit down. So I stood up the entire class for about a month and a half or 2 months at the back of the class. But I made that work for me because I knew it was a larger goal in the end. And at that time, I was working at a different carrier, and they were supportive at that time of what it was I was trying to do. And I was able to work from home, but I still had a responsibility, right? I still had a desk that I had to maintain, and I was also a lead on workers' comp. So I was the one that resolved all of the workers' comp issues. I answered all of the workers' comp questions, and I did all of the workers' comp training. So I still had a lot on me. So life did change. It was, I think, for the better, because I think what I dealt with in my undergrad was only preparing me to deal with what I did with my master's, right? Because each situation is going to be just a little bit more complex, but it doesn't seem as complex because at that point I feel like you've been equipped with the tools that you need to experience it, to deal with the experience, and it also builds character. That pushed me to have to walk across the street and walk up the stairs, and people kind of helped me up the stairs. Yes, I felt at one point it's kind of embarrassing, but at the end of all of that, somebody has to help somebody. Even though it was from a physical aspect for me at that time, it could be from an emotional aspect or a mental aspect for somebody else. So, but it still helped, right? So I just took that and applied it to my life. I didn't cry about it. It was embarrassing again, but I would just explain to people, I just had surgery, but I want to get through this. I don't want to start at home. I don't want to go and get an exception. I didn't want to go to do the ADA qualifications. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make it work, and I made it work. And I think I met some really nice people along the way, and they've created some value in my life. I still talk to a lot of my classmates that I worked on my master's with. I talked to one of them. We pretty much talk every other day.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yes, so I met some nice people. At the end of, I think that second month, I had so many people that would walk out with me at night because it was 10 o'clock at night. They would walk out at night with me to make sure that I got to the car. One would take my backpack, and one would help me across the street.
Oh, that's lovely.
So that right there built so much trust and so much loyalty. It made me really appreciate the people that you come in contact with, because you never know who you're going to need. You never know who you're going to need. And I just talk to them. I talk to them all the time. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to meet with them. I think they're valuable people, and they're important to me in my life. And I tell them all the time, if it's anything I can help you do, just let me know, because this is where we met. and I just appreciate it.
I just feel like so many nuggets are just dropped. Like, just you say so many great things, and I want to highlight something that I end up having conversations with for students all the time, which is like you never know who's just around you, right? Just opening yourself up to conversation, and I feel like this happens a lot. It starts off with like, oh, they come in for a resume review, and then I'm like, well, it's a combination of like what you know, but also who you know, who you talk to. Have you started your LinkedIn profile? Which they always are kind of like, no, not yet. But I think, speaking to the person that you're sitting next to in a classroom, speaking to the person right behind you, switching around where you sit, getting to know people, it makes a difference.
It does.
Being put in like a physical position where, in moments maybe you have to ask for help, right? But then in addition, maybe sometimes we don't necessarily quote unquote need the help, but it's just opening up a dialogue, having conversations with people. It's invaluable. To echo your point earlier, networking is so important, and I feel like a lot of us tend to learn that kind of like later on in life. And I'm sure I'll have a better understanding of it even later than now, because I feel as though me 7 years ago didn't like to talk to people. Me now doing an interview, right?
Yes.
Me 7 years from now, maybe going to conferences, speaking events, all of these things, right? But it's just so valuable, and I'm so happy that you mentioned it. I want to ask you, given everything, the experience that you had, it sounds like you wouldn't change a thing. But say if you could go back in time, when you were first starting in your master's program, knowing what you do now, what piece of advice would you give yourself then?
Wow, that's a great question. So I would say I have two things. First of all, I wouldn't change my workload, just my personal life, how I built my relationship with people in school. I wouldn't change that for anything, because I think it made me stronger. And I always say bigger, better, stronger. And one of my mantras is by Carol Lawson. I love it. Handle hard better. And I just feel like, to your point, you didn't want to talk or communicate like outright because that was hard for you, right? That was hard, and you handle that better. Handle hard better for me means put yourself out there. Put yourself out there and conquer those uncomfortable positions. Yes, you may sweat, but people don't have to know you're sweating. You can build your confidence as you start to talk. It becomes easier and easier and easier. Talking to agents for me was always a sore spot for me, because I'm thinking, oh my God, they may ask me something I don't know. How am I going to answer that? Be transparent. Tell people, I don't know, but you can always tell them, I can find out. And if you tell them that, be sure to follow up. Make contact with them. Give them a status of what it is, where you are on finding out. Don't say I'm going to follow up and not follow up. You have to follow up. You have to stick to what it is you say you're going to stick to, because at that point, that's where your trust starts. That's where your loyalty starts. Because you said you're going to follow up. Be transparent. So that's one thing that I would say and I would stick behind is be transparent. Put yourself out there. You can handle hard better. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Because face it, people will be willing to help somebody that will tell them, yes, I'm afraid, but they try. Versus, I'm afraid, and you allowing fear to keep you from doing what it is you want to do. And another thing I would say is network. Networking is key. Networking is everything. I know people get tired of hearing networking, but networking is key. It is about who you know. It's about how you carry yourself. And always, always be kind. I really don't like novelty shirts, but I think I have like probably 10 or 15 shirts. That's all I have somewhere on it. Be kind. Be kind. You never know who you're talking to. You never know who you're standing next to. Sometimes I do travel to Midland, Odessa pretty frequently. And that's where some of my agents are, and my other agents are in Oklahoma. And some of the people I meet on the plane work for some of the insurers that we insure. So you have to be cognizant of how you treat people, how you talk to people. Always respect people. I know in the society we live in, everything is not roses, but life is what you make it. Life is what you make it. So I try not to get upset. If I do, I kind of step away, gain my composure, and I come back. But I try not to let people see me upset, because it's more to life than being upset. I think for me, life has been too good to me for me to be rude or disrespectful or just not polite, period. And everybody I work with always said, Tamara is always in such a good mood. No, I'm really not always in a good mood. But I try not to allow what the hand been dealt in life, or the hand I've been dealt that day, dictate how I treat people and dictate my mood. You shouldn't see me and say, oh, she's always mad, or she never speaks, or she ignores you when you pass by. I'm not that person. I think one of the things about my character is I'm going to always speak, and I'm going to always try to help you. And one thing I always tell people when I train at work, if you tell somebody something, do it. If you say you're going to follow up, follow up. Because that is going to take you so much further than not responding and ignoring. I always say that is one of my pet peeves. And always organize your desk. Always have your desk organized and your life organized. Have some control of what it is you do. Because if you start taking things that are thrown to you any kind of way, you're never going to complete anything. I have a friend, he's in his 50s, and he was telling me, he's like, Tam, I want to go back to school, but I'm too old, I don't want to deal with that. And he kept telling me, and I was like, he's like, oh, I shouldn't tell you because I know how you are. You don't like anybody to tell you anything, because if they say they're going to finish it, you're going to get upset if they don't. I was like, yeah, I am, because it shows me that you're not committed to anything. He was like, yeah, but I'm going to finish in a couple of years. I said, no. I said, let's go ahead and get you. He had I think it was 8 classes to finish to get his master's. His bachelor's. He's like, I don't feel like that right now. So one day I went to his house and I registered him for school, and he got the email. And he was like, did you register for me? I said, yeah, I did. You can pay for it. He was like, Tam, I don't think I'm going to do that. I said, no, complete it. You've never completed anything in your life. When you complete something in life, your life changes. Mm-hmm. You feel a sense of accomplishment. Your confidence grows. Your self-image changes because it's a mindset. You change the rest of your life forever. And that is where I am, and I'm passionate about that. Complete something. Because you will go through life completing things. And he would tell you now, Tam, if it wasn't for you forcing me to complete my degree, my mindset wouldn't have changed. Because he was used to just quitting. And that becomes a habit. Just give up on everything, and you complete nothing. And I told him you will never live to your fullest potential by giving up or quitting, because it gets hard. So that Carol Lawson quote, handle hard better, that runs deep for me. Handle hard better. When it gets hard, you don't quit. When it gets hard, you may have to step away, pull your bootstraps up, and keep pushing. And somebody is going to see the dedication and commitment in you. Your passion, your dedication, commitment, and your will to be successful will take you through life. And I always tell people to be successful, you got to make mistakes. If you never fail in life, you will never know what your potentials are. If you don't fail in life, you will never be prepared or be able to work through a problem. You will never be able to troubleshoot to get to the other side if you never fail. If you knew how to do everything in life, or if, for that matter, if everybody knew how to do everything in life, we would never have an opportunity to grow. Technology wouldn't be what it is. Somebody failed somewhere. And it's okay to fail. I take constructive criticism to do better. Take it every day. I might not like it, but I take it. So every opportunity prepares you for success.
What is it? The thing that you mentioned earlier that I couldn't let go of was the emphasis on following up, right? Or, just like committing to get done whatever you said that you would get done. I had a conversation with the director of the Career Center, Brett, and he was talking to me about, previous positions that he'd been in. Sometimes it's really easy to get really excited and commit and say, I'm going to do all this stuff and this, that, whatever. But he said a hard lesson that was learned for him was that the worst thing you can do is overpromise
And
and
underdeliver.
underdeliver. Yep. That, and honestly, that hit me really hard. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, because it's it can be very fun, it can be very exciting in new spaces, but it's kind of a combination of having that enthusiasm, because that enthusiasm is key, right? But then also being able to pace yourself out, have a plan, work towards it, accomplish goals. That feeling of accomplishment is what'll get you through. The more you do that, the better kind of mindset that you end up having, because you want to accomplish the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. It feels great. I hope students kind of leave taking that away, if nothing else, because that's so important. Oh my goodness, I just thinking about it. It is a habit, right? Quitting can very much so be a habit. Because it's easy to, the way that I look at it, okay, an example, my mom, something that she did was she got a personal trainer because she had made commitments to exercise and work out before, but she works hard, single mother, has, what is it, she's practically helping raise her granddaughter, and so it's a whole thing. But she knew that she wanted to feel better physically and
Sure.
Get that energy up, all that good stuff. But when it was just her, she felt as though she couldn't keep the commitment. She'd do it for a few weeks, a month or so, and everything. When she got a personal trainer, that all changed because she knew that she was making a commitment to another person. I said that I was going to be there, I'm going to be there, this, that, whatever. That eventually turned into, when she was making those commitments, she was making those commitments for her. And that was mind blowing. It's the power that's within doing something because you said so. You're right, totally changes your life.
It gives you a sense of accountability, right? So an accountability partner is what I see it as. So to your point of personal training, I'm there. I start, so I want to say it was November of 2020. Well, so my mother had a heart attack April of 2021. Yeah, 2021. So tomorrow will be 2 years since her surgery. I worked from College Station, where I'm from, for 2 months, and I was driving back and forth on the weekend, and my son would go and stay with my mother on the weekend just to give me a break.
Right.
And after that, after she got back on her feet and then she was able to start to take care of herself again, after that I said, my dad had a heart attack in June of 2020. My mother had a heart attack in April of 2021. It's okay, now I can see this right in front of me, and I can make a decision. Life is about choices, right? I can be reactive, or I can be proactive. Yes, everybody laughed. Oh, Tam, you just like to go to the doctor. I think that is just shows you who I am. I'm a proactive person. I don't like to be reactive. September 2021, I had all of my stress tests, I had all of my labs, everything drawn so I could do my best to mitigate as many risks and issues of the comorbidities that my parents have. Diabetes, high blood pressure, overweight. I'm an asthmatic. I can take that and I can allow that to control me, or I can control it. I don't want that to control me because I don't want to have a heart attack and have to deal with respiratory issues, right? I went and got all of those tests done to make sure that I didn't have any blockage, They didn't do that. Tam, you don't have to go now, you can wait. No, I'm a proactive person. If I can cut something off before it gets complex, I will. And that's just where I am pretty much in life. At that time, I was probably 178 pounds because I did a sedentary lifestyle. I was stressed. I was trying to take care of both of my parents. I got a personal trainer, and I finally got my weight down and I got my cholesterol under control because I needed to be proactive, and I did not want to leave here and, well, no, before that, I didn't want to get sick and have to have my children take care of me. That was one thing I just did not want to do because that's tough, that's hard, and they have their own lives. I don't think that's their obligation. So that accountability partner, being accountable and responsible is key, and I think that translates through your entire life, from your personal to your career. And everybody knows that they can always count on you once you display that you're accountable and responsible. So I love that personal training example that you gave. I think that's a perfect analogy, and that's just where I am in life. And my goal is to continue with my personal trainer because I knew that, I go twice a week, and I go into the office after that because I don't work in the office. I go to the office after that. So I just use that as an avenue to get out of the house. Mm-hmm. It's one exit away, so I was like, I'm going to pass by the office, go home. I may as well just go in the office. And then I do cardio 2 days a week. But because I know that they're depending on me and she's going to ask me about it, got to be accountable to somebody, regardless of whether we want to admit it or not. We're accountable to somebody, regardless of who we are. I want to do that. I want to do that. So the accountability, every once in a while we have to have that. And that's going to project you forward, and you will be able to be successful, and it'll show in every aspect of your life. And I do equate some of my, joy and happiness is to my mindset change, because I do work out, and it does change you for the better. And I love how I feel, and I think that my confidence shows, and my optimism shows in that. So personal training is awesome.
Absolutely. I agree. I want to say, because you mentioned about, you took your health into your own hands. You made sure that, you don't want your kids to have to kind of depend, or you don't want to have to depend on your kids in terms of your health and taking care of yourself. If I may, I kind of want to loop back a little bit, mm-hmm. because, it's amazing to see, that level of, personal achievement in terms of, health goals and everything. But I also want to, take a second to reflect on those kind of, educational goals that you had, too. You mentioned the first, what is the best way to eat an elephant is, part by part, right? Mm-hmm. And you came to a point wherein, you did achieve, that master's degree. Yeah. I had one question, but it's going to actually end up being kind of a two-parter, and I'll ask both parts at the same time. It's about, I want to know, one, what you felt and experienced in obtaining your master's degree, right? Because that's an immense level of achievement. Mm-hmm. But then further, what impact do you think that had on, your boys? And, once you achieved that? Because, I know growing up, my mom, she still went to school, even, I was in school, she was in school, and everything. And I don't know if I ever truly understood just how amazing that was. But here, I see you, and I see that's amazing what you've done. But I want to know how you felt in achieving that, and also what, the impact you feel like it had on your boys.
I felt like this was almost closing the loop on my education, because when I first started back in 19 years old, I said I wanted to go into physical therapy. Because, again, I like to help people. But life happened, and my path is untraditional, and I got into insurance. And so that just gave me, they just kind of closed the loop for me to get my master's. And I felt like, man, if I could do this, I can do anything. And I think it's because it was just a natural progression for me. And I can just step it up. If I'm faced with a problem, I think I can just handle it better now, because I handle it bit by bit. But you also posed a question, what impact does it have on my boys? So my eldest, who's 32 today, he and I graduated one semester apart. So we were both in school. So just imagine what the house was like. The kitchen table was always with a computer here, computer over there, and you see papers all over the place.
Yep.
And me getting tired at night, being up at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I tell him, read my paper for me. I'm gonna go over here and take a nap on the couch. And he would always take pictures of me. So it was fun, but I was like, how are you going to school with your child? But if you think about it, we grew up together. It was truly no different than going to school, I guess, when I was in high school. You grow up with your friends, and I just feel like we're all so close now because we grew up together. But with him going to school, and my other son, he lives in Dallas, but he's not in school. But to be in the house with my eldest, and he's in school, and we had papers everywhere, it was an experience because we lived on cell phones and calendars. If it was not on a cell phone calendar, it was over. And then we also have a dog, and then my son was doing clinical also. So he would do clinical overnight. So most of the time I didn't see him on the nights that he had clinical because I would come in at 10 and he was leaving at like 9:30 because he had to be there at 11. And he wasn't going far. I think at that time he was doing OBGYN at Methodist in Sugarland. So it wasn't far from the house, but it was adventurous. All you saw were books sitting on the porch from Amazon. Every time you saw us, it was like we had papers all everywhere. We have to pick up when the exterminator came because there was papers everywhere. And right now, today, in my office at home, we have a bookshelf full of books. But I really think that just gave us a different thought process, and it gave us a different type of relationship because I graduated with my master's in December of 2021, right after my mother and dad had their heart attacks, and my son graduated in May of 2022 with his master's. So it was humbling. It was a life-changing experience, and we talk about it now. And he always shows me, Mama, you remember this picture? I was on the couch sleeping. It was just not a pretty picture, but because it was like 1:30 in the morning. But those days were, you can never get those back. You can never get those back, but they were interesting days. But I appreciated what we did together. Yeah.
That is I feel, it sounds like unique, kind of like not everyone will get to have that same experience. Yeah. But it sounds so fun at the same time.
Yeah, I think it sounds more fun than it actually was. But I definitely appreciate it. I call it character building.
Character building.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just thinking about it. Like, I couldn't imagine. Well, I guess it's just kind of I feel as though you do get to see. I imagine he got to see you kind of like from that different perspective, because I feel as though myself growing up, it was always so. My mom was always so distant, and, it's kind of like, well, she's getting her degree and everything, and she's working on that. Me probably sound asleep, her late at night doing work and everything. And I feel like there's probably an opportunity to see a lot more humanity, right,
yes,
in one another. And I just kind of like, less so focusing on the idea of quote unquote fun, but more so focusing on that idea of like, building that kind of like strong connection, in a way that not everyone I feel gets to. And then at the end of it, like, both of you having like this amazing thing to celebrate. Mm-hmm. So I mean, snaps to y'all.
Yeah, it was definitely a learning community at that time. It was definitely a learning community. I think even now he asks me about human resource questions and insurance questions. And as far as that, everybody always comes to me with their insurance questions even before I even started working for a carrier, because I had that background. Mm-hmm. But you look at it and you wonder, how does human resources tie into that? Human resources ties into insurance and risk management because you're dealing with people. Customer focus. I mean, everybody is my customer. Everybody here is my customer. All insureds are my customer. Everybody's a customer, and that's how I treat people. But as far as the human resource part of it, just looking at risk and underwriting risk now, you have to step back, remove yourself from that situation, and think about how would this impact the next person? How would this impact the community that this insured is operating in? How would this affect everyone? Is it going to affect people because they're going to have to take time off of work, FMLA? I mean, it's different, just different nuances. What are their safety goals? What do their employee handbooks say? So you do actually employ a lot of human resources, more so than I thought, in underwriting, because you have to think about the big picture of how people will be affected. What are the risks here? If this person falls down a manhole or falls downhole, how is this person's family going to be affected? How long is this person going to have to be off of work? Will they ever be able to go back to work? Mm-hmm. Will they be indemnified? If so, how? Are they going to pretty much be on workers' comp for the rest of their life, receive any type of workers' compensation for the rest of their life? All of that is handled in human resources. So that just gave me, I think, a better understanding and a different perspective of how I have to think about risk and how we underwrite risk. So I just think it really just created more of a robust, gave me more of a robust knowledge base when it comes to underwriting and being able to employ that in insurance and risk management.
Well, it's, I'm lucky to have the opportunity. I always feel so lucky to be able to sit here next to someone with just so much wisdom and knowledge.
Thank you.
And it's, that was one of my questions earlier. I think we had spoken about it in the elevator, kind of like the connection between insurance and risk management, mm-hmm. human resources. And I'm kind of happy that you beautifully married those two together and how they make sense and how they work together. And it makes me think, it sounds like, and keep in mind, you sound so cool, calm, and collected when answering the questions, but it kind of makes me wonder, was this a part of the long-term goal? Was this the plan? I know we mentioned about, eating an elephant, right? Part by part. But when you first started back, getting your associates, to getting the bachelor's, to getting the master's, was the master's always the end goal? Was it always there? Or was it just kind of you got the associates and I could do a bachelor's, and then, I got the bachelor's, I could do a master's. How was that?
When I first started, I didn't even want to be an underwriter. I wanted to always be an assistant. And that was because of, every carrier or every employer is just not for everybody, right? True. So you have to find what works for you. And my prior carriers, I just didn't feel that support. I didn't feel that I was able to develop and grow at those two carriers. I didn't feel like I had the advocacy that I needed to be able to get to underwriting. But when I went to Liberty Mutual, everybody rallied around me. Everybody talked to me about it and asked me had I considered it and why not. I was like, I just don't want that pressure. I don't want the pressure. I don't want the expectation. I just don't want that. I don't want my phone ringing all night. And they were like, whoa, Tamara, wait a minute. Because it was just the thought it was my experience. I saw that. The experience with the other carriers, I would see people stressed out. I would see people crying. I was like, whoa, I don't want that. I don't want to deal with that. I'm getting too old for that. But Liberty Mutual gave me that comfortability, right? So I'm comfortable with them. I can talk to them, and I feel like they're an advocate for my growth. They're an advocate for work-life balance. They appreciate the fact that, Tamara come log in at 9 o'clock on Tuesdays and Friday after she comes from the personal trainer. They appreciate that. But if that's not appreciated and you don't have an advocate for that, it's hard for you to, get your footing. Become comfortable with saying, I'm going to go to the gym at 7 o'clock with a personal trainer on Tuesdays and Fridays weekly, and it'd be okay that you get log on at 9 o'clock. So once I got that with Liberty Mutual and I got comfortable with that, then I was okay with it because I knew it was supported. I knew that it was supported, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. And that's what really changed my thought process, is I had the support. And support is everything when you're trying to grow. And I finally decided, I can do this. I can be an underwriter. And one thing that Liberty Mutual also afforded me was to be able to travel with my underwriter, to be involved in the conversations, to be exposed to the industry, to where I don't have to be afraid to talk. I don't have to be afraid to put myself out there and ask questions. Nothing is going to change that if you're not exposed to it. So me being nervous, and believe it or not, at one point I was shy in my life and wouldn't talk in front of people. I didn't like cameras and didn't like lights. I would have never thought that I would be here. But when the opportunity presented, I took it. I was afraid to get into it initially. I was, because I didn't know what I was walking into. But I felt I had the support that I needed, the reassurance that I needed to get me through all of my hesitancies, all of my, just me being pessimistic about it, and just in uncertainty. So they let me know what the expectation was, and I was happy with that. So here I am, and I want to be able to help someone get to wherever they want to be. If it's underwriting, I want to help someone get there. I want to help somebody be better than me. I want to help somebody not go down the same road, being a teenage mother and having to get their degrees as an adult. Everybody shouldn't have to do that. So if I always laugh at one of my managers when one of the questions they always pose is, if you could do anything in life and money was not a factor, what would you do? Her thing is personal fitness. You can make money in fitness, but you still have to be able to survive, right? Mm-hmm. If you ask me what my thing would be, it would be a community activist, and my focus would be young teenage children, girls, mm-hmm. that look like me, that would go down that same road as me. If I could stop them from going down that road to deal with the same things in life that I dealt with, I would definitely do that. But I have to be able to survive too.
Right. No, 100% makes sense to me.
So yeah, that's what I would do.
I am not even sure how I would tackle that question, if I'm being completely honest with you. But I think that's something that kind of comes with, learned experience. The things that you experience in life, the things that deeply impact you, that make you want to commit to something like that. Mm-hmm. I want to say again, snaps. I'm so happy that you're achieving those goals that you have career-wise, mm-hmm. and that you're kind of making those moves. And I also want to kind of take a second to highlight something that you said super important that I talk to students about a lot of the time, which is it's not, because some students will come in and they'll say, I need an internship, not really having put any thought yet into where they want to be, the places that they feel like they would be happy to be, having had any conversations with any employers or representatives of the company, because it's not just about getting an internship somewhere. It's not just about getting a job somewhere. Jobs exist, internships exist. If you're just trying to get one, sure, you could probably find one for you to be a part of, but it's so important that you, I guess, connect with, right? Mm-hmm. The people that are part of that company. Connect with the individual, the recruiter. Connect with the folks that work there. Is the company culture something that you want, that you can see yourself in every day? Mm-hmm. Are those people that you want to greet every morning? People that when you smile and wave at them, that smile is genuine and that wave is, completely out of care and concern, just hey, I want you to know I'm acknowledging you. I'm happy that you're here, just like I know you're happy that I'm here. We're working together. Mm-hmm. It makes such a big difference. And to hear that, a part of that motivation, or kind of people rallying beside you, saying yes, you can do this, achieve this, you got it, we're supporting you. It makes a world of difference. Yes. And I hope students kind of take that home and remember that, you know what, I want to be somewhere that supports me. There are healthy work environments.
Absolutely.
Absolutely there are. I think a lot of students end up in situations where it's okay, well, I'm working here for right now, and they get kind of used to this retail job where people don't treat me well, or this food service job where people don't treat me well, and then they end up surprised. They get their first corporate job, people wave at me when I walk by. People know my name, like this, that, whatever. It can be such a positive environment that they live and work in. You know, you see the people that you work with really often. They say sometimes more so than your family, depending upon the situation, right? And it's so important that that's a healthy environment. So thank you for like mentioning that. I couldn't have paid for a better answer. It's so good. I want to know, because we're talking about like just these levels of achievement. You've been very humble about it, but I want to know like what has been since graduation. What has just been like your highest like achievement? What thing have you been like the most proud of since graduating, in terms of work that you've done, things that you've gotten? Maybe it's a personal goal, just anything that you've done that you're just like, I'm so happy that I got that done.
Wow. Awesome question. Well, to be perfectly honest with you, when I got the invite, I can't remember who I got the invite from for the industry event. I felt like that was my point to give back, to reach back to the people that really invested in me, which were the people of University of Houston downtown, that really gave me an opportunity to grow, right? To learn and be able to secure my future. I was happy to do that industry event. And I was ecstatic to get the invite just to do this interview today, because I feel like, okay, this is my opportunity to make a difference in somebody's life. If it's one person that takes something away from what I've said, I am definitely fulfilled. I've made a difference in somebody's life. That makes me happy. That does so much good for me. Just pulling into the garage today, I kind of sat there, I was like, man, I'm back. It's like deja vu. I remember parking on that side of the garage. It's mind-blowing to think that I can come back and give something to something as large as University of Houston downtown. Somebody sees the value in me. They see my character and see my passion and determination to be able to help someone, and be just open about it. I'm just transparent about it, and be excited about what it is that I'm doing. And this really, I feel like this has built my confidence so much. And I have a friend that I always mention to him that I'm so happy I met him, but I don't really think he understands. He gives me so many different tidbits in life, and gives me so many different perspectives to think about things, which I think it really broadens my thought process, to where I can reach different people from different walks of life, different upbringings. I can reach people, and I can sit down and talk to anybody. I don't think it's one person that I can't talk to. I may not be able to relate to everything you say, but I could definitely relate to something that you tell me. And I'm always open to learn. I can learn something from everybody in here today. All you have to do is talk to them, communicate. One of my main things for me every day is you have to communicate. You can't get anywhere in life without communication. And I'm here to communicate. I'm here to help anybody do what it is they need to do by communication. I would definitely talk to you, and y'all probably see that. I'm a big talker. And I'm just happy. And I feel accomplished where I am right now. What I'm doing right now. I feel accomplished.
And for the students that like don't know or aren't aware about the Meet the Industry event, it's this event that we host here at the Career Center hosts here at the Maryland Davies College of Business, where we invite, I believe it's mostly, if not all, alumni from the University of Houston downtown that are just doing well in their industry, that have the time and are willing to take the time out of their day, because I know you all have busy work schedules, to invest in the students. Have those conversations with them. Let them learn a thing or two about the industry that you're in, because it means a lot to be able to speak to professionals. So I want to say thank you for attending that event, because not everyone can or does, but I think it means so much for the students. And while maybe not every student realizes like what an opportunity that is, I think those students that do go get so much value out of it. The whole time I had students coming to me saying, "Oh yeah, I had this really excellent conversation with such and such from here, and I had such a great conversation here, and I'm so happy. When are y'all doing this again?" And we couldn't do it without you all. You all make the event, so thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And also, thank you again for being here, because you seem passionate. Everything that you're saying is like coming straight from the heart. It's, it's your lived experience, it's your learned experience. You're willing to share and kind of like unveil yourself in a way that like allows the students to really learn from you. Folks have had so much like lived and learned experience that they can share and educate others with. It's just a matter of them tuning in and listening.
Yes.
Thank you for everything that you've shared. I have just one last question for you.
Okay.
And I know you said earlier that it kind of feels as though you came full circle, kind of came to a close, but what if, right? Have you considered possibly a doctoral program?
I have, but I don't know where I am in that decision process right now. I would definitely do designations, insurance designations, but working on my PhD is not out of the question. Pulling back in the garage just made it oh so surreal for me, so it changed my train of thought then. So it's not out of the question.
That's good to hear. I'm hoping the University of Houston downtown adds some doctoral programs soon. I'm not saying into that to anyone in particular, but I've heard whispers, so hopefully, right? But I just want to say, Tamara, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
It has been a pleasure. I will. What is it? Is it fine? Are you okay with people maybe reaching out, trying to connect with you on like LinkedIn, that sort
Absolutely.
of thing?
I think LinkedIn is perfect. I think that is where people should really look. Even resources are there just for resume building, interviews, just working on whatever you feel like your weakness is. You can go and find resources there to help you get past whatever it is that you're dealing with. At work, I always take a class. I always do something to try to better myself. I'm into self-help, and I feel like the more open you are and transparent you are, and you set expectations and boundaries, I think that you really grow from that. So I will go on LinkedIn and I'll take classes, and also at work I'll take classes that focus on some of the classes that LinkedIn offers. Just I can't think of what it is called, but I know imposter syndrome. So I taken a class and I learned about imposter syndrome because I have it, and I work hard to subdue it. Imposter syndrome in the back of my mind. What makes you think that you have the right to do this? What makes you feel like that you are the one that can go out and be a voice for Liberty Mutual? You have to quieten those voices, right? So you have that comes with confidence. So I have started to work on that, and I feel better about it. I feel like I am worthy. I feel like I am deserving. But that takes work, and I learned that just from the classes that I've taken on LinkedIn that they showed or shared at work through some of our programs.
Thank you for mentioning that, actually. It's the last thing. Last thing.
You're fine.
The University of Houston downtown, we used to sponsor students to be able to actually utilize LinkedIn Learning. Since then, I'm not sure if we still do that. I don't think so. However, I want students to be aware that actually the Houston Public Library has access to the catalog of LinkedIn Learning videos, which, as you mentioned, tons of great resources and content on there. Great things that you can learn, all the way from Excel courses to imposter syndrome to how to nail your interview. All of these great things.
Yes.
So I'm just gonna put that out there for the students to be aware of.
Yes.
And just one more time, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You have a good one.
You too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.